Yu-Gi-Oh players, we're back with another video of Jesse Kotton finishing first place with the best pendulum deck?
Best pendulum deck, yeah, probably right now for sure.
And what'd you play?
Melodious.
Damn! Everyone, how did it go for you in the tournament?
It was pretty good. I mean, you can't complain when you win, right? So
I couldn't believe it. Who would have thought of both of us? You were the one playing pendulums.
yeah, well, you're a traitor.
What?
So you made that pretty apparent. When's the last time you showed up with pendulum? I feel like it's more than 2 years. Dude, you're top with your claim to fame. That was 6 years ago now. 7, oh my god. 7 years, it was 2018.
Okay, so
Crazy.
how about this then? I'm gonna build a pendulum deck, you build one, and then we'll duel later on the channel. Deal?
Deal.
So, but today, all the spotlight's on you, Jesse. You did the unthinkable with Melodious, and I want you to tell us about the deck and how the tournament went.
Yeah, so first up, we go with the actual pendulum cards. This is a pendulum-ish deck. It really doesn't have a crazy amount of pendulums, but the best cards are pendulums. This being one of them, and that is a Refrain the Melodious Songstress. So this card is good because it's a Stratos, which on summon searches another Melodious, which is obviously just a good thing. Its scale effect is also important, and that is you can try to fusion Melodious to dump one from deck to grave, any Melodious from deck to grave, and then you gain 200 times the level for its attack. So it's like Orcus Nightmare plus a Stratos in one, which is good. And even further than that, if it's in the extra deck and you summon a fusion Melodious monster, it'll place itself in the scale. And the way Yu-Gi-Oh works is if you use it as fusion material, it'll go to the extra deck as a pendulum and then immediately come out because it goes first, then the monster summon, and then scale. So it's not like you need to do some long convoluted setup, it's just straight up fuse, then scale, and the free value. So that is the first pendulum, and the second pendulum is Couplet, which is level 5, which looks yucky, but this card's actually insane as well. Its scale effect is more important, and that is if you control either no monsters or they're all Melodious, and any Melodious spell from your hand. Truthfully, Melodious spells kind of suck, but there's one solid one, so it's not that bad. As well as its monster effect is whenever you add it to your hand, it includes drawing it for some reason. You get to reveal it, especially summon a Melodious from your hand or from your grave, and it's level 4 or lower. So it's a reborn. Now, it doesn't have to be just drawing it. Obviously, if you just add it off of this, then you revive from grave. And that's where the foolishing matters, right? Because if you foolish with this, then this reviving starts stacking up into some real advantage.
And these, one thing with Melodious, it's a 1-card, maybe 2-card starter deck sometimes, right?
It's 1-card starter almost
card?
always. There are the 2-card combos are a lot worse, but they still work. They're just not.
Right.
They kind of suck because they're the vulnerable hand traps.
Right.
But you have to play them to give it a little more consistency, as well as they part of your 1-card combos. So like it's not really bricks in your deck, the cards required for the combos. It's just like they are clearly worse than starting off with like Refrain. Refrain though is perfectly fine as a 1-card combo. And then it's like Refrain Couplet when it's in the extra deck and you summon a fusion, it'll also place itself. So
right.
Same thing. And then we've also got 2 Sopranos.
So what you're trying to tell me is the best cards in your deck are pendulum cards.
Well, the best part of my deck is the fusion spell. This is the best card. Let's not joke around. But yes, those are the next best cards. Soprano is really good though. So this is just a fusion summon using monsters in your field, which seems kind of shit, but you need fusions, so it's why you gotta play it. As well as when it's summoned once per turn, you get to add back Melodious from your grave. That effect is a hard once per turn, so you can't keep spamming that, but the point is to give you more fusion materials, as well as you can kind of chain things together. So like this, add this, then special this, then search. You can see how it kind of develops into a lot of board state, or the reverse.
I noticed they're all lights. Does that bother you that Bystials are in the format now? Does that hurt this deck at all?
I mean, like, the pistols do something against this deck, but they far from, like, make a huge difference.
Right.
They're not dead versus Melodious, but, like, I want to consider them premium. Because once this deck starts to play,
yeah,
it kind of spirals out.
Right.
And the graveyard is not, like, super integral. It's nice. It's a bonus, but everything plays just fine from the hand and field next to it, so it doesn't matter. And I mean, the pendulum monsters don't interact with the grave, so not being able to hit the best cards in the deck. There's, like, one specific card, which you'll be a little careful to not get pistoled, but it's easy enough to navigate around. It's not a problem.
Right.
Shapina, to once per turn, add back a light fairy from the grave. Any light fairy that includes. Bingo. And that's a big reason you can win versus Malice. This deck cannot always kill the easiest, and versus Malice, that's a big problem. It's a deck where you need to really take advantage of the tempo you get. But the fact that you can loop the Lancia means that's not that big of a deal. So, yeah. You can also add back, obviously, Herald the Orange Lights, or I've seen Green Light being played. I don't, but that's also an option. And then you add back Melodious, obviously. That's unsurprising. It also has Maestra in its name, so that does matter for the fusion materials. The other ones don't have Maestra. This one does. Maestra is usually a tag that only the fusion monsters have, so some of the fusions require a Maestra, that it's easier to use Shapina than it is a fusion monster. Okay, Aria. This is like the reason to play this deck, and that is while this special summon card is in the field, your Melodious monsters cannot be targeted by card effects or be destroyed by battle. So nice Detonator, nice Chaos Angel, nice Imperm, nice attack. I don't know. It's just very hard to out.
Yeah, and I like everyone watching to like. It seems minor. Oh yeah, sure, it's not targeted. No, it's actually a massive deal in your deck.
And most things you can't target, you would try attack over, right? No, not this either, right? So it's incredibly insane, and it gets further it gets further exaggerated by the fusion monsters, which synergize well with this effect. So we'll get to that later, but you'll see it all come together. And then I'm playing 3 just extenders. These cards suck.
Why are you playing them?
You just need more monsters in the deck because you notice this is very skin amount.
Yeah.
If this deck had better extenders, I wouldn't play these.
Yeah.
All these do is if you control Melodious, you summon them from the hand. Sonata is the better one because it gives you an attack boost, but this one's level 4, so I play it as a search target in other cases.
Yeah.
When you want to make Yugioh. It's like not super important, but you play these because you need to play. And the deck has a good link too. It's just weak to hand traps, which is not something I look for, obviously. Yeah. It's better than nothing though. And you do lack a bit of consistency. There's other things you can do for consistency, like Small World, but I'd rather just play that's a neg 1. I'd rather just play one, like the neutral extender. It's obviously not high quality compared to the rest of the deck. And they get a little better when you start adding back infinite cards with all your search effects and your recursion. Then the bringing back the free special summon feels better. And they're not once per turn, so that's a little bit of a upside. And the plus 500 attack boost from Sonata, when you have 2 of them, can help you set up lethal pushes. So next up we got the one Melodious spell, and that's Concerto. So this just fusion summons using your field or hand or pen scales. So if you fusion the pen scales, I mean the ideal simple line is this, add this, add this. Fuse both these, then they place them back in the pen scales thanks to their effect.
Right.
And that's cool. And the other effect is, the reason why I only have to play one of this is when a fusion monster goes to your grave, you place it on the bottom of your deck, like this card, and draw a card. Right. So recycle and a +1, so feels good.
And is that card a reason enough not to play Prosperity?
Because you're gonna end on fusions, right? So if the fusion goes to a grave on their turn, recycle, or the next turn, recycle. It's not huge.
That's good.
This deck, the difference in power level between some of the cards in the deck is so drastically high. This deck should never ever be above 40. Because you really want to maximize the chance of seeing cards like Ostinato. And Prosperity also makes sense because Prosperity thinking Ostinato is such a huge difference in power level.
Yeah.
It's just noticeably different, the deck, when you draw those cards.
Right.
You'd argue you should maybe play upstarts in here for that reason, but they're so terrible with hand traps right now that I wouldn't want to do that really. It's Ostinato. I mean, if you're not familiar with this, just shit off fusion, but doesn't require your opponent to control a monster. Fuse using the deck, which does crazy things in other decks. In this deck, it's even better, right? Because now when you send this and this to the grave, then you go special from deck with Baka, a special this, which adds specials this, which adds this, and then you can pend out everything later.
Yeah.
And you get to fuse multiple times now with this. Actually, this is way more in this deck than it is in other decks, and that's saying something because in other decks, this is already one card FTK, so it's kind of insane. Yeah. I know this is another broken Melodious spell that you don't play in other decks because this one locks you into Melodious.
Yeah.
Which isn't a huge problem for this deck. You are playing a pretty Melodious heavy combo, but it means you can't use SP or Baguska, which are not hugely important, but they are in the deck.
And the only ones that lock is just specifically first movement solo?
This one to add back locks you as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just not that important.
Yeah.
It's nice, and then specials from deck, so just E-Telly, which...
Actually, wait, this one might be good with Baguska because it just says you can't activate it this turn.
Yeah. This is the card you summon usually at the end. I mean...
Right.
It technically works, but yeah. It's also important that this is about activated effects. So that means that if you get Charmead and you Ash, you can't use this.
Right.
Charmead's, by the way, kind of annoying. Fulos is a bit of a problem.
Both probably hurt a lot.
You can usually navigate around Ferulia a little better. That's the case in most decks where Fulos gets a lot harder. And then, the rest of the deck is non-engine. Seems pretty lean. So we got Valor, Ash, Imperm, and then I got cross-out targets because I don't want to get Ash on my Ostinato. So I figured I may as well throw these in here. Just fine hand traps. And then, note that Ostinato, first solo movements, and the couplet all require you to control no monsters, or couplet requires no monsters or Melodious. So this is a little bit risky. That's the reason I play one. There are ways to clear it out. Obviously, the same thing you do in other decks is the Haggard Lizardos, but it still requires you to commit normal summon, as well as it just feels bad.
Yeah.
So it's something I avoid, although it's not that bad. And I'm not siding more right now, but honestly, I think I should, because Malice can feel really hard going second every deck, not just this deck.
Maybe next format you could get checked by 3 Nihilus on top of the Lancia and the Fualos.
Perhaps. But I think right now, maybe I should be playing more Nibiru's because I want more. And versus Malice, if I have an Ostinato, they don't usually play the hand traps to kind of block me from doing anything. So committing a normal summon of another random hand trap into the Lizard to clear my field isn't a big of a deal.
Yeah.
And the last hand trick I'm playing is Orange Light. I'm on the fence about this still. I talked about this in my deck profile already, that I don't think it's the best card. The problem is it's a neg 1, and in a format where you're playing a value game all the time, the neg 1 is pretty bad. However, I think it's great versus Malice because it negates activates and clears body off field, which is exactly what you're looking for. As well as, importantly, when you're going second, you want to get the Aria on field so they can't target you, especially versus a detonator. And this pushes through Ash, which is one of the main counterplays. So, and the same reason I'm playing Crossout on Call By, you'll see, is you want to force through Ash, and this does that. It's a card I've sided out a lot, especially when I go first and I don't want to be down cards, which feels counterintuitive because you want to stop Mole Charming. But even negging into Mole Charming feels terrible.
Yeah.
So I think
yeah, well, because of the end board, because you're going to be locked into the Melodious, it's not a crazy end board, but it's a lot of plus, obviously. So I think you could be right there. I've always disliked. I know Herald's a crazy card, but even in all the decks that it's played in, it's always felt a little bit weird to me going neg one.
This is a card where I could very reasonably see you siding it instead, where it's just to go second card for Malice.
Right.
And then maybe you can go second for Risol's fine because it's still a good card, but going first, it is significantly worse. And there are many matchups where I feel like it's not worth a neg one, and just another Ogre or Nimp would have just been better. So it is a powerful card, and that's why it's in here, but just note that it's not as crazy as it seems.
Yeah. Desire is impossible in the deck because of Concerto.
So I initially played Desires back in Indy was June. I found it a bit risky banishing Concerto, Aria, and Sopranos, as well as it conflicted with Prosperity. At the time, I mean, it's not the hugest deal. You could probably play Desires and Prosperity, but if you have to choose, Prosperity is better because being able to choose what you get is more important than +1.
Yeah.
The Ostinato is just so
I'm trying to see Ostinato or first movement solo.
Exactly, right?
Is there a world, question here, as someone who loves deck building as myself, that you remove, as amazing Crossout is, maybe get the deck to 18 hand traps, remove some of the extenders that kind of suck, and I know it might be bad, but just playing 3 Desires and a Prosperity?
I mean, you can try. The problem is consistency, right? Like, you have to make that consistent. Also, Desires will always run the risk as well of banishing key pieces, right? Like, this deck can play awkward game states without Concerto or without Aria. Like, it's not the end of the world. I did that the entire YCS that I played 3 Desires in this deck. But, like, I could definitely feel it was missing. It wasn't like, these aren't key, like, you'll lose the game, you don't have them type of Desires, but you will also know you don't have them because they do hurt you. And I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I feel Aria is more important now than it was when I played it in June. When I did it in Snake Eye, the most important card was Etoile, hands down, the fusion monster. So that not being a card that interacts with Desires is huge. But now Aria is really, really important versus Rizal. If you don't have Aria, you kind of just can't win that matchup. And so I don't want to. I mean, you can always just play multiple, but not a card is good to draw unless
maybe
you get
3
scales.
upstart and no. I know it sounds crazy, but if there's 12 starters in the deck, maybe 3 upstart could be okay.
Yeah. So one thing to note as well, this deck is actually really cheap. I'm not playing with Charmies and stuff. If you want to make the deck more expensive, one of the cards you can play is Dominus Purge, which is in a good hand trap because they're all light, obviously, and the extra deck's also all light. And
how much is this deck right now?
So the core engine, 20 USD. Actually, I think it might have went up a little bit since I posted my video. I know a lot of scalpers out there really like to prey on budget videos, but it shouldn't be that much more. The entire deck is low rarity.
Wow.
And then extra deck. So the important card is Baja here. This card, I mean, all fusions are important, but this card is just insane. It's Graph and Seer. On summon, special from deck, and then when it goes to grave, special from grave. It's nuts. Also, they can't negate your fusion effects, which is like not that important, but exists. Cool. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's generic to Melodious. And the actual, I don't know if the actual best one, but this card is incredibly important to this deck's entire like deck composition. Is Etoile. It's your main end piece, like grind game card. It's so if you're not familiar, it requires 3 Melodious monsters. One of them has to be a Maestra. So Maestras are Shapina or all the fusions. So these are Maestras, and this is a Maestra. Yep. And what it does is quick effect. You can banish any number of your Melodious monsters you control, and then you can return that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. So this is like weird, where you don't have to banish, or you don't have to banish as many cards as they control cards. So if you banish 4 and they control 0, you can do that, and you just bounce 0. That's allowed. That's important for playing around Nibiru and many other type of effects. So, for example, one of the ways they can out Aria is going Exciton, and what you do is you let them make Exciton, let them use the effects, so now they can deal damage, and you chain to clear your own field, and they come. Oh, I don't know if I said this. They banish them till the end phase. They come back. The end phase it comes back, and the Aria is just still there, and they still have no outs to it. So,
well, it looks like Desires is not going in the deck now.
I think you need to play multiple Aria. Yeah, like that's the problem. If you do that, the Aria is too important.
Yeah.
And then also when this card leaves field by an opponent's card, special summons from the deck or extra deck any Melodious, which is nice, but in reality, the nature of this card being like a wind-up rabbit, being so hard to interact with, means that that effect never comes up. Like, there are some times they'll force it out, then chain Ogre. The rest of the field still gets banished. It's not a huge deal, but then yes, this will die. Thing is, it floats, so that's not a problem. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this can survive from the grave as well. Yeah, specials from grave, any Melodious. One of them are I think this one's level 4 lower. Yeah, so this one revives 4s lowers, this revives anything. But yes, this can revive this, and it's back. The grind game in this deck is like BA. It's really, really hard to outgrind this deck. And
So you gotta use those interruptions very wisely, because
Yes.
you're ending on like a finite number of interruptions.
it's really just this and the next card, and the next card's not guaranteed depending on how you start your combo
Yeah.
or their level of interaction. But Schuberta, this card is low-key kind of insane, although like it doesn't seem like it. So
Later, Fiend Swing.
once I'll face them on the field, yeah, exactly. You just get banished 3 cards from either grave, and then gain 200 attack for each card banished. The fact that it gains attack is kind of randomly important because it means you can use it in the damage step. So when you want to play around the impermanence, which you can use, you can just attack and then go damage step, effect banish 3, and it secures that everything gets banished, even if you can't protect it with the target or you can't protect it from with the tag out. It's important that it says while facing on the field, you can use it once, which means if you banish it for this and tag it out, it resets. So like, and you'll go like banish 3 and then end phase, tag out, blink, come back to reset it if you're like playing into a field. But yeah, like Desiree is one of the main outs to Aria, so this complementing Aria means they never get the Desiree. Even if they have 3 engravers engraved, you can banish all 3 engravers. It's not happening. Desiree is not hitting the field. Obviously, you have to be holding for it, but that's not a problem. It's a good card, yeah. And it kind of further pushes this deck being good in a grind game because, yes, your deck is good at floating, which is important, but also you're ripping apart your opponent's grind game by hitting their grave. So when I played Labyrinth at a YCS, I played versus 3 Melodious for some reason in that tournament. And I probably should have lost all 3 of those matches if my opponents knew Lab better. Like, truthfully, I probably should have lost all of them because the amount of time that Lovely, my big welcomes, never got to use their effects because I'd have to play through the non-destruction or like the non-target and then like bounce the lady back, I'd put it in grave or whatever, and then it gets banished by Schuberta. You just can't manage. You can't ever accrue resources. I wasn't playing Math Lab, I was playing Furniture Lab. So all those Stovey Torbies and Chandeliers just never get any value.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, good card. And then the last Melodious card in here is the most overrated card I think in the deck, but it's why you play the extenders. It's the Link 2, and it just special summons 2 Melodious from the deck to the points to. And then also it's like an Armades effect where it attacks, then you can't respond.
It's gonna be better in your deck versus others because you're playing cross up.
Yeah, part of why I play cross out. Like, because the combos that involve this are extremely fragile to hand traps, and discarding for cost always feels bad, especially for something that's already weak to hand traps. And yeah, but obviously if it resolves, then you summon 2 Melodious from the deck, then that's insane. That shouldn't need explaining. So yeah, Gravity Controller, because sometimes what you do is you throw this in the EMZ and it gets impermed, then you throw this on top and it triggers the float effect. Honestly, it like never comes up, but it's there because your extra deck is pretty open. SP Phoenix is for the chameleon once, so you can go like Melodious plus a hand trap into Phoenix because that card just ruins your day. This card is for nib, obviously, like to clear your own nib. This is for like random things you can't kill. I mean, you have plenty of space. It's not like you have to really make hard choices for the extra deck. Baguska for, I don't know, when you feel like Baguska, like you can make it. It's almost always worse to make any generic monsters than the Melodious monsters in this deck, so you really don't do that often. Typhon's like, yeah, it's good in the metagame right now because it hits.
Bro, it's actually an awesome deck. As you're like building and explaining, I'm just thinking in my head like interactions and the stuff with the deck building.
Pretty well.
I do like it a lot, especially because it's a 1-card combo deck. Never find that often in Pendulum. And I think up next, we have to duel!
I will have to defeat you.
Oh! We will see. Guys, if you want to see more of this deck, Jesse has a bunch of combos on his channel on this, as well as a more updated deck profile and a whole bunch of info on this. So make sure to go check that out on Jesse's channel. It'll soon be my channel after I defeat him because my prize will be his password. So expect more Pendulum content on Jesse's channel soon. Any last words you'd like to say?
Oh God, I can't believe I'm playing Pendulum.
Nice. Thank you, Jesse.